Today, let's talk about something you can buy at any hardware store, the humble screw. A screw looks like just a piece of metal, right? But did you know that tightening one actually stretches it? A bolt really is pulled longer by just a few tens of microns. The restoring force that stretch creates is called clamp force or axial tension. A screw stays put only because of the friction this clamp force produces. And here's the twist. A screw is a part designed on the assumption that it will loosen. Today, let's dig into one of humanity's oldest fastening technologies.
Let's look a little closer at how it works. When you tighten a bolt, the threads act like a wedge. The bolt gets stretched while the parts get squeezed together. So a bolt is really a powerful stretched spring. That spring force presses the parts hard against each other, and the friction born between them holds everything in place. So fastening, at its heart, is the management of friction.
By the way, tighten too much and the screw simply breaks. Like a spring, it springs back to shape up to a certain limit. That range is called the elastic region. But tighten past that limit and it enters the plastic region, stretched and never returning. Push further still and eventually it necks down and snaps. A broken screw is a sign you went past the limit of its stretch.
Let me pause here to talk about washers. A plain flat washer is not a locking device. Its job is to catch the large clamp force across a wider area. It spreads a force concentrated on one point over a broad surface and stops a soft material from being dented in. It's the unsung hero that protects the bearing surface. The spring-shaped one, the split spring lock washer. Even today, it's slipped under bolts as a matter of course, trusted as an anti-loosening device. And yet, it barely works at all. Several studies have come to exactly that conclusion.
The classic example is the Juncker test, published in 1969. It violently shakes a bolted joint from the side. The results were shocking. In some cases, a joint with a spring washer loosened even faster than one with nothing at all. A 1990 NASA design manual states its effect is essentially nil. It was the moment a trusted lock device was overturned.
But the story isn't quite that simple. There are arguments on both sides. For temporary holding before final tightening, it genuinely helps. At low clamp loads or where vibration is weak, some argue it does offer a certain effect. And it's cheap, easy to handle, and backed by long habit. So it's still sold and used all over the world. So why is it ineffective at full tightening? Dig in, and the reason turns out to be surprisingly simple. Tighten it fully, and the spring is crushed completely flat. Once that happens, it's no different from a plain flat washer. And the clamp force runs from hundreds of kilograms to several tons. Against that, the washer's spring-back force is vanishingly small. In the face of such a force, it's all but powerless. That's all there is to it.
So how do you really stop a screw from loosening? There's the nylon insert lock nut, the double nut, where two nuts clamp against each other, and special nuts that use the wedge principle. Liquid thread locker is another standard. Roughly, blue is medium strength you can remove later. Red is for places you won't. There's even plastic region tightening, where you stretch the bolt to its yield and manage the clamp force itself.
And here we realize something important. None of these methods is universal. Vibration, temperature, cost, ease of removal. The best choice changes with every condition. So in the field, engineers have no choice but to mix and match locking methods, each in its right place. It works in practice, so it looks like a finished technology. But the truth is, the one perfect solution does not yet exist.
Now for some real-world examples. Take a single automobile. It's said to use several thousand screws. From the tiny screws deep inside the engine to the thick bolts holding up the suspension, dozens of types are each used in just the right place.
One interesting kind is the black screw, black and obviously strong-looking. Most are what's called high-strength bolts. Their heads are stamped with marks like 10.9 or 12.9. These numbers denote a strength grade, and they withstand nearly twice the force of an ordinary screw. Small, light, and yet incredibly strong.
Let's shift perspective for a moment. Look up at a bridge or a steel-framed building and you'll see huge bolts packed in tight rows. Called high-strength friction grip bolts, they clamp steel plates fiercely, and that friction alone supports the giant structure. Some are the torshear type. When they reach the specified force, the tip shears off and flies away. A bolt left untightened becomes obvious at a glance.
The screw is one of humanity's oldest fastening technologies, used and refined for thousands of years. And still, there is no single perfect answer. In other words, the screw is still designed on the assumption that it loosens. A part this familiar is still not finished. I can only admire the people who keep making the screws that hold up our world. Simply joining one thing to another. Behind that ordinary act lies a world this deep. The way you look at the next screw you see may just change a little.
Thanks so much for watching, all the way to the end. On this channel, from an engineer's point of view, we dig into the everyday mechanisms around us, the ones you thought you knew, but maybe never quite understood. If today's story sparked even a little curiosity, I'll see you in the next video.